This conference will now be recorded.
Nope. Thank you, sir.
Bad busy.
Sign in sheet. Yes, sir.
Close enough now.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for public safety. Could you please call a roll
Counselor Halverson,
here?
Counselor Corn.
Yes.
Counselor Foster, Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda in the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda for August 16th, 2022, and the minutes of the public safety of July 19th, 2022.
Second. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, the first regular item is the consider resolution 22XX condemnations. Right.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Councilors. Today I want to present two properties. First one is 115 East Bland Street. There was a fire there, total loss. The owner has contacted the building official and he lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. But he has family here. He's going to come down and pull a permit. I just want to keep it on here to make sure that it does go down because it is safety to public.
There's so much structural damage.
It's like gone. And then the second one is another fire structure at 416 West 16th. The gentleman that owns it came in for a demo permit. It done expired December of last year and he hasn't done anything to it. So we can keep that one on. Make sure that one comes down to the neighbor complaints that they got homeless people going in there staying at night.
I had a question. When we demo these, do we bill these people?
We put a lien on the property and if they want to sell it or satisfy the lien, they'll make arrangements with Todd and they'll get your money back that way.
Okay. You want any discussion about any of these properties? Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for resolution 22XX condemnations for the houses 115 East Bland and 416 West 2nd.
Yeah.
It's from there?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the only thing in looking at that on some of these, they had one over by St. John's that we talked about the other day and the cost of demolition there was $21,000. I don't know how much it would cost if you have this as a practice burn for a volunteer fire department and then haul off what was left. And my understanding is that
Can't do that.
the cost, if we put a lien on it for whatever the cost to remove the property, remove the trash, and I know that was $21,000. A lot of them probably sell for maybe $2,500 if you were lucky. And one of these lots, I don't know, if 115 East Bland it's close enough to Main Street, you might get a little more money for it. But, you put a lien on this, if with a little word, maybe the flood commission could use the rocks. And then anything that you could save out of that, nobody has probably a lot of time to do all this stuff. But when you put a lien on it, the contractor gets paid for hauling it off or whatever. I guess he charges the city.
Right.
In his cost. But the price, I mean, if you got $20,000 on this lot, it'd probably be hard to get that out. And so I don't know if it's, it stays there for 4 years and then the lien goes away and then somebody can sell the property. So all you're doing is having a 4-year vacant lot.
Well, at some point,
And then the city, I guess, I just got the weeds when there's lien on the city, or that just adds on top of it.
It just adds on top of it. So if there's weeds that need to be abated throughout the year, it goes through the whole process. We place it on the weed resolution. The council approves that. We cut it and that's added on to that lien. Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, I didn't mean to jump in, but on the burning of the structure. So and the one that you referenced over on Albuquerque, the $22,000 lien on that property. That was because of the asbestos that was in there. So even if we did burn them, we would have to abate that. We would have to abate that asbestos out before we could even burn it. We used to burn houses back years ago at the fire department before we had our training facility. And it's really a very dangerous. You can get a couple small burns out of it before the structure becomes weak enough to where it's really a defensive training, where you just let it burn down and put the fire out. But we would still have to abate the asbestos out of it because of EPA requirements and things. So we would still have that cost if there was asbestos in the building. Not much left on that one.
But anyway, it's kind of a condemnation of the property, by the way, for it works happened, but it costs so much to do.
so say we charge them, we send them a bill for tearing it down and we keep having to cut the weeds. At what point, they never pay these fines, obviously.
Most of them don't, though we do collect a few of them. So the invoices are sent to the owners if we even know where they're at or if they're even still alive.
Does the property ever revert to the city then, or the county?
It can be. We have to foreclose on that lien through the legal department. We'd have to foreclose.
Because you can just.
These liens are good for 4 years.
Okay.
And after 4 years, they go away unless it's a legal term that they re-up the liens on the properties after 4 years. Most of them, the taxes have not been paid on them in a number of years, so they end up on a tax sale at the end of that 4 years. And
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want to keep throwing good money after bad.
Well, you have to hire a lawyer.
Yeah,
Keep your lien up, there's another $5,000.
right. That you're never going to collect back on a piece of property like this, or very seldom.
Usually if the contractor buys it, comes in and buys it, they will pay for the lien and we get our money back that way with cheap land.
let me get it for much less.
And that's how we start rebuilding the inside of the city.
Okay, any more?
Just clarification, was that on consent agenda? Was that on
Sure.
the motion? I'll put it wherever you want, but.
Yes, we can put it on consent.
Since I'm doing the minutes here, I want to make sure I get it right.
I did not mention it, but since you mentioned it.
Any more discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. On the non-action items, I spoke with Art Sandoval briefly, hoping you'd be here today, but he's really scared this year because of all the crime with the kids and everything. And I understand it's a familiar problem. But I know, Christina, you've got the mental health thing Thursday at 2. So I just wanted some kind of discussion. What can we do to try to abate a lot of this kid-on-kid crime with the violence? One thing I was thinking of, and again, people see that these kids are troubled and they're not doing anything about it. So I didn't know, this is just a thought, and I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea, but we have the fix-it form for items that are bad and broken in the city. I don't know if we could do a fix-it form that's anonymous where people can report, like the one profile picture of that one kid, he's holding a gun. I mean, obviously something's wrong there. Some way that people can report what they see while being anonymous. And I don't know if that's something that I rely on you guys to see if you think that would even work.
Well, you'd have to report to CYFD because
You just can't throw it out.
the state has jurisdiction over
But the
every
state doesn't have
juvenile.
any way to do any of that, do they?
Well, the CYFD is, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As a city, we cannot say that a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old, we can't even impose a curfew.
Yeah.
It's
Because I think the biggest problem is people see these kids are problems and they're not doing anything about it. And Mr. Sandoval expressed to me, he's terrified there's going to be a school shooting at some point. And I'm just trying to find ways, and I'm sure every community in the nation has run into this problem, but like the Uvalde guy, you know, he posted stuff all over Facebook and people saw it and nobody reported it, and they could have probably stopped some of those shootings.
Nobody wants to get involved, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping it could be anonymous report.
I'm sure that our police department is well trained and won't stand back for a couple hours waiting.
Oh, I know, yeah, well,
Yeah.
I guarantee you that too, yeah. But
Well, Madam Chair, maybe the best place to start the discussion, I've invited the deputy chiefs and Lieutenant Crane here
congratulations.
to be here to speak. We wasn't sure exactly what the topic, how the
Yeah.
topic was going to open up. So they'll be able to kind of give you maybe an update on some of the past violence that's been going on and a little bit of history without getting into
So the
stuff
chief.
that you can talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that discussion came about the reporting school incidents like that a while back, and we did try to implement Crime Stoppers, but there was something to do with the school district and having Crime Stoppers there. So we tried that option. The second option that we've been working on, and I don't even know how to say it because I don't want to really reveal but I know we've been doing some investigative techniques which has helped us get certain things off the street. But then we're running with issues with detectives. They're doing it off their own will to kind of combat those things coming into the town. So it's hard to pinpoint on what we need exactly, other than more dedicated resources as far as that with juveniles, because it seems like lately our juvenile crimes have increased dramatically. And it started, I have a PowerPoint and I don't know if you guys want to see it. And it pretty much, this is when we realized we had a problem. It was a shooting that happened at the Farmers Country Market on East 2nd. That's when we realized that all these kids had all these guns, with some of them automatic guns, over the sale of THC vape pens. And then we discovered some Glock switches that make any Glock automatic. We were able to get 90% of those off the street but I mean, it still doesn't stop them from coming, so.
Well, Mr. Sandoval is actually happy there's school resource officers in the schools again. He said that should help.
And that's helping, yes, it's helping some. But these kids are not talking about it on, in the locker rooms or in the bathrooms. They're talking it on social media, and like I say, just like you said, none of the parents or family members are saying, hey, little Johnny just posted an automatic ghost gun. Did you see it? Oh, no, you didn't see it? Well, let me show you the video, so.
Yeah, the amount of stuff we're finding on social media very, very rarely comes from anyone besides our officers doing their own internal undercover investigation. So it is pretty surprising the amount of pictures, videos, photographs of them committing crimes, having automatic weapons, and no one, obviously somebody's watching it, they're posting it, never comes back to us. But at the end of the day, when you think about juvenile crime, it all comes down to legislation, us having no authority to do anything to these kids. If you got caught with one of those Glock switches, just the possession of it's 10 years federal time. There is no time federally for a juvenile for having a fully automatic pistol. You can only charge him stateside, slap on the wrist, go out the door. If he was 18 instead of 16, he's facing 10 years in federal prison for having a machine gun for the Federal Firearms Act. So at the end of the day, the accountability and the ability to incarcerate and enforce laws on these kids is ridiculous. Last week, our narcotics guys pulled a kid over. He's on juvenile probation, caught with another gun, and they take the gun, let him go, give him to mom, get a warrant for him, set him back.
And who makes that decision? I think
JPO.
it's important that you explain to them like you did me last week.
It's a legislation, right? The New Mexico.
They have to go basically by a point system and a matrix before incarceration will be improved. So you can call and say, just like the kid that got killed, he was arrested for attempted burglary or burglary the night before. He's under arrest. You call JPO. Oh, this is his first felony? Absolutely not. Take him home to mom. then he's gone out doing whatever and then ends up getting killed. So, yeah, we just have no wiggle room with juvenile. There's nothing we can do.
Well, and on the juvenile side of it, this is not a new situation.
Yeah.
It has become more prevalent and more in our face because of the extreme violence. But the juvenile situation has not been, this is not a brand new situation. This has been for countless years where juveniles were used for in the narcotics trade and everything else.
The legislation they passed where they basically can't hold a minor, did that make everything worse?
Say that again?
It passed legislation where it's almost impossible to hold a minor.
Well, it's essentially been that way for years. I mean, just them
Yeah.
passing that didn't change anything than we were already dealing with.
Yeah.
They just made it very forthcoming that they're not going to do anything about it.
So my question is, so the JPO says release them to parent.
Yes.
The parent says, basically the parent's responsible for them. If the parent says, I'm not going to be responsible for them,
We have to call CYFT.
Then CYFD comes involved at that point in time.
Mhm.
But 90% of the time, and not to throw rocks, I mean, it's just to identify the reality is that the majority of the juvenile issues start at home or the lack of structure at home. And so you have a lot of these juveniles that are arrested, just like this one teen that was arrested for burglary, released back to the mother that night because they didn't meet the threshold for JPO. And within a few hours, that juvenile was not at mom's house, was somewhere completely a random different area at 3:00 in the morning. And then another huge act of violence goes on. You know, I don't know this parent. I can't state the situation there. But to me, that's just, I guess for a lack of better terms, it's just a lack of control over these juveniles. And like I said, you know, the juvenile situation is not new. It's been an ongoing situation. Drug dealers have used these juveniles for countless years because they knew that if they got caught, nothing was going to happen to them. It's the same scenario. They get caught with guns, they get caught doing felonies. If they don't meet the threshold for JPO, they're turned right back out. And they know that. And so any of these criminal enterprises know that as well. And so that's why they implement, you know, and bring in these juveniles to do a lot of stuff. Now, when it comes to the extreme violence that we've had, you know, I don't know a solution. I mean, we have worked countless. We, you know, beat our heads against walls trying to figure out how is it that we can curb this, that we can solve this. You know, there's not a crystal ball to identify that tonight there's going to be Johnny Joe that's going to be at this location and he's mad at so-and-so because he is dating his ex-girlfriend. We can't identify those situations.
That's what makes me angry. And I believe, you know, it takes a village. These families obviously have failed their kids. You know, they're raising them into this life. And what bothers me is there are people out there that know this is happening
Yes.
and they're not doing a thing about it. And then when they get shot or killed, then they're all about, oh my God, I didn't know that was, you know, it's like, yeah.
Well, or they want to blame the police department.
Yeah.
They want to blame the police for where were we at? What were we doing? Well, we weren't raising your child that maybe you should have done. And secondly, on a lot of these social media sites, there's so many of the dark web or different sites that the common neighbor, common family member, or anything else may not even have a knowledge of or be aware of. And they have all these hidden passageways that they can go into these different sites and do all this stuff. And I agree that it does take a village. But we see that not only on the juveniles, we see that on an everyday occurrence of just natural crimes that everybody is completely oblivious to it. They were either taking a nap, they were in a shower, or they just didn't see anything. It happened right there in their own
And it's
living room.
generations lost.
And so it's,
Yeah, it's like fourth or fifth
It's
generation.
generations lost because the grandparents that raised the one set of kids are dead now, but those kids don't know how they were raised. And it's animalism. I hate to say it. They're just surviving.
I mean, our biggest deal is we just need public assistance, really. And that's not only in the juvenile, but
Yes, but even with the social media stuff, something that people don't think about is a picture of something doesn't do us any good. So I can't prove that's a real gun. I can't prove it's not an airsoft gun. I can't prove that's a real vape pen because it's not actual evidence in our possession. So people, when they do report it, if we try to act on it, very rarely do we get a search warrant off a picture. When was it taken? How long ago? How can you identify him? How do you know it's not an airsoft gun, a BB gun?
That's what worried me about doing it like a site like that is you're going to get inundated with false reports and stuff too.
Or they send us stuff and we know by looking at it, yeah, more than likely that's a real thing, but it may not be enough for us to get a search or arrest warrant off of through the courts. So, because we can go on and find this stuff ourselves, or like you said, somebody can report it, but is it enough to have anything actionable? And like you said, hey, this kid's got a gun, and you go talk to the parents. Well, yeah, maybe they gave it to him or they know all about it. You'd be surprised the amount of corroboration between parents and children in these said crimes. The farmer's one, the dad was with them when they did it, you know, he also got shot. So.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference because you get kids that are hunting, they're
Right.
it's a whole different,
Sure.
somebody holding a gun like.
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm just open to suggestions. If anyone has any about.
well, we are too. I mean,
Yeah.
we're open to any suggestions as well. I mean, we're.
One thing that kind of goes down that same alley that me and the deputy chief implemented throughout the schools that you might be in favor of is called Handle with Care Project. So anytime our officers have contact with a juvenile, whether it's a domestic, their parents get arrested, something traumatic, we now forward emails to our school resource officers and the school counselors. We don't give any details of the incident whatsoever. We just say, this person needs to be handled with care in your school. So before, we obviously deal with a lot of domestics and kids, you know, they may not come to school the next day. They may be tired. They may be upset. And the teachers and staff have no idea why, but at least now, oh, they had some type of traumatic experience and that's all. So maybe we can get them to a counselor or whatever. So we just implemented that this year and so far so good on that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Did you have anything, Christina?
I had a question on that right there. Generally, when you have children that you have to handle with care, what is the actual outcome? Are those students who can become troubled students or?
Absolutely. I think if you're dealing with this stuff at home, they're more than likely dealing with this stuff in school, whether not getting to school or, you know, you're up at 3 a.m, the cops are there arresting dad because he was drunk and was in altercation with mom. So yeah, their studies and their attendance obviously is affected by those traumatic incidences at home. So with this implementation, we're like, okay, we can kind of collaborate with the schools and they know why, you know, little Johnny's sleeping at his desk is the cops are at his house all night. They don't know why, they don't know what happened. They just know, hey, this child may need some extra attention today. So like I said, we just implemented it in schools, only been in session a couple of weeks, but so far.
Is it in every school?
Yes. What's that? Every school, yeah.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say at the high school and the junior high, a lot of times, unless that child has a teacher that they confide in, you're not going to find that out. Generally at the elementary, those elementary kids tell us everything.
Yeah.
My mom was found with meth last night and cops came in and, you know, they tell you every single detail, sometimes way too much. But it's the junior high and high school ones that you really want to worry about, because at the elementary, we know something's up and most of the teachers will, if Johnny's sleeping at his desk, we're going to let him sleep at his desk. And we're going to tell the other kids, No, we're not gonna wake him up. Let him sleep. He needs that time. And, but at the junior high and high school, they changed so much. They don't have, and that's good that the counselors know that, because the counselors can pull them out and let them sleep in the office or let them sleep someplace else, just so that every 6 periods or 4 periods now, forgetting how they do the high school. Not all those teachers know right away.
Madam Chair, I'll say it's always on the forefront. I mean, they're always thinking, now, I didn't even know about this program. So that's good to hear about that. Thanks for sharing that one. We're not just, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, oh, I know, yeah.
They will continue to try everything in their powers legally to avert these incidences from happening. But it's, like you said, it's getting that information and knowing that something's coming down. They've addressed some issues for some juveniles damaging properties and stuff in the city and parks and things like that. And they put together a little task force, I'll call it. They may call it something else, but they addressed that rapidly and very effectively. And we've not had that problem again. And so they're open. So if anybody knows of an area or something that you recognize that there's some potential dangers there, or you're seeing something out of the ordinary, or it's just concerning, please let them know, and they'll look into it.
It's probably your biggest challenge is people just aren't telling you guys.
Yes, ma'am.
And can people report stuff to you anonymously?
They do. I mean, we get them once in a while where one of us or one of the detectives will get something and like, hey, this is what just came up. So it does happen, but it doesn't happen, I mean, all the time. It's not every day we get something new.
Maybe we'll look at other communities if they have any kind of campaigns trying to inform the public, hey, you need to report, you know. I don't know if it works. It's like, just say no.
And we did that a number of years ago when Steve Paulson was here. It was see something, say something.
Yeah.
We bought bumper stickers. We handed them out. We put them out everywhere. And I don't know how effective it was, but it was always in your fourth, in front of you. We put them inside the buses.
Yeah.
Everything, just trying to get people to report things that they see and be willing. I mean, I've been to court several times on things that I have no problem calling, reporting it in, and I'll go testify in court. It's like, this is my community too, and I'm going to do my part as a community member.
I'd like to add on to that too. When me or my fire prevention crews respond to any of these structure fires, we always report if we see any type of neglect or anything for these kids. I think just getting some of these buildings cleaned up, getting the properties removed. This 115 specifically, we found youth going in there doing drugs, they were breaking in, that type of thing. So having these things removed will help clean up the streets. It's an indirect approach, but it can make a difference too. So
I don't know how many times that house has burned in the last 19 and a half years, but it's been a bunch.
yeah, and the youth right next door was seen breaking into it. I mean, and
Youth right next door, we go volunteer at the community kitchen. They're never clothes. They don't have clothes on.
right. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think just there's other indirect ways to help curb the issue, but we're definitely trying.
I know that goes the same for animal control, because when I toured it, they showed me pictures of a house they had gone to and it was open sewage and everything. There were kids living there. It's just, but see, their neighbors had to have seen that and
Right.
nobody did anything. It's just, okay. Well, thank you. And then if anybody has any ideas, I know everyone's open to. We got all the department updates. I have a question on the police department. When you're training, you have issues and concerns, you need large scale equipment. Update the radio equipment, communication equipment, that's part of the ICIP, wasn't it? You guys know?
The ICIP was, the only update on the equipment was through CAD, and it was for the update to the RMS system, basically.
So that is what we're talking about, it's, yeah.
The communication equipment on the XRT is actually for dispatch consoles.
Oh, okay.
So it's specific for our equipment.
So then what do we do to see about getting, I'm sorry, it's page 13 of the police report, right before the K-9 monthly report. Talk about the training at Goddard and then the communication equipment.
That's for the communications equipment for the SWAT team, is what he's talking about. So they want to update their communications.
Communication equipment for SWAT team.
Oh, yeah, headset communication stuff is something we really needed to update for a while. We have hearing protection, so if you go shoot, you go to the range, you wear hearing protection. We have that. We just have regular body worn radios like a patrol officer. Now you implement gas masks and all kinds of stuff. You're trying to talk through that. The communication equipment has built-in microphones that your radio plugs into. Excuse me, those stairs got me. The other really nice feature is it has proximity talk. So if we're in a stack ready to go into a house, I don't have to press a button because you're in proximity. Anything I say to said microphone goes into everyone else's headset. So kind of hands-free. You still have the hearing protection for any explosions or gunshots, and just better overall communication. So
something like that, would that go into their budget or?
Yeah, and it depends on what they cost. So I don't know if they put prices on.
Yeah.
it's just quoting on those ones, they were close to $800 to $1,000 a set.
So they can pull that out of their budget. They have the option of their budgets, placing on ICAP, applying for grants.
I think it's too late for ICIP.
Yeah, right. But they can get it on the list for the years to come too. But that could be something they budget in their budget. The chief and them would have to be the ones to do that.
So what did we send in? What was, or did it make the top 5?
You're gonna make me try to remember those.
I'm trying to, yeah, I can't remember what the stuff was. My whole thing, the other thinking I have is if something is on there that this could piggyback onto, we haven't sent it in yet, the ICIP in.
The total for, I don't know if they have communications equipment. I'm sure the communication stuff is still on the master ICIP list. So this could be tied into that potentially. But that's such a, I mean, it's a lot of money, but at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, that's a very small number within their budget that they could, if that was a necessary, where they prioritize all the equipment that they need, if they, that come up to the top, they have the ability to make that happen within their current budget.
I don't think this is going to be an issue.
Okay. Well, and that, my other statement though would have been just to write that in whatever other communication it would fall under. And that way, if we got state money, we would be allowed to use it.
Yeah.
But if it's not even on the ICIP.
I don't think on our ICIP, the only thing that I think actually came in within the top were the vehicles. I don't think the Central Square addition, and I don't know if your
vehicles were,
anything else top 5 ICIP. Yeah, so
police vehicles were on there.
we're on there and that was it.
But this is what I'm saying, this is a number that can be handled.
Handle with it, yes.
I think what the chief's trying to do is put everything, all exhaustive monthly report together, that this is what we're working on. These are our potential needs. These are our desires, and along with all the stats, trainings, everything else we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, and then another one I had is the burglaries total. That's on page 30. I noticed they're going up, and with the economy now, you expect that to keep rising?
With the burglaries rising?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So
That's,
my question is, I don't know if this is a Todd thing or you guys maybe post like, hey, this neighborhood's being hit. Because I noticed, I look at the reports from the shifts And some neighborhoods are just hit. It's really bad. I don't know if there's things you can post. Hey, if you're in this neighborhood, you may want to make sure you lock your doors or, just do posts so that people are aware that this crime is going on in their neighborhood. I know it's all over the city, but some neighborhoods are hit harder than others sometimes.
Luckily for us, when school started, we'll start to see a decrease in that just because school's back in session, kids are going back to sleep on normal time. So we get an influx of when summer starts, so.
And another good thing to have Grace do is do a monthly a neighborhood watch safety thing to put on her post, and we'll pick it up. We'll repost it on the city website. But if you had a monthly safety tip from Neighborhood Watch that was just going out, things like that could be addressed through there. So that'd be a good project.
Yeah, you'd be surprised damage one person can do. One of our detectives last week got a guy with 17 vehicle burglaries from 2 nights. He did 17 just checking doors. Didn't break one window, didn't break nothing. Guns, money, everything. And luckily I had it all nice and stashed in a hotel room. So we were able to charge him with all 17 burglaries. But I'm sure he did a lot more than that. That's just the stuff he still had left. One person in 2 nights.
And that is something that Todd does at various points of time. He does around Halloween, he'll do, a trick or treat safety deal. Around Christmas, he'll do all that. So at different times throughout the year, he does do safety alerts. In summertime, it's not any different. He does safety alerts as far as, ensure, especially if we do have, which we have, a huge rush. He's consistent of putting out, just neighborhood tips. Make sure your cars are locked, your doors are locked, such as that. So he does put that out.
Yeah, okay.
And I know there's a large following of the Neighborhood Watch Facebook page. So a lot of people is following that, so that would be good for Grace to.
But with hers, the only ones that can see her post are the Neighborhood Watch members. So if the PD posts it, she can share it. Yeah. Because she's real good about sharing her stuff too, all over. Like,
Can I ask?
yes.
If y'all get a call from a box store, that they've had a theft, does that go underneath this number as well?
Like a shoplifting?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to be classified as that, no.
Because there's a lot that's going down. I just noticed burglary data, right? But I know the economy is terrible too, so. Oh, I had.
I don't know, Councilor Arnold, did you want to talk about your meeting tomorrow? And
Happy to Thursday.
or Thursday?
I received a call from a lady named Connie Vega. She is in Albuquerque. She works with the Greater Albuquerque Alliance nonprofit. They have been working on funding from the state to study an approach, basically effects of this program on our state. And last year they were granted $100,000 to study that. So after visiting with her, I started sitting on her board, month to month, and she kept talking about a video that she wanted to have implemented legislatively, this program that's in Miami-Dade County. And so I finally watched the video. Actually, it was on a Memorial Day weekend or something like that, when most people are enjoying themselves. Anyway, it was actually very intriguing because in my mind, our police department does a great job, but they need support. They need the different kind of support that from the community, from, the schools, professional. And so I was kind of looking at different programs. And I think one of the big things that is a root key to a lot of crime, homelessness, is mental health. This program in Dade County has been working for 20 years. And it's basically a mental health court diversion program. And so I don't know that I necessarily believe that we want to incorporate exactly what they're doing, but I do believe that we need to start having conversations at the connection between mental health, homelessness, and crime, because I really believe that our society has kind of dropped the ball on addressing the mental health issues. And so on Thursday, we're going to watch this documentary, and then we're going to have a serious discussion, very focus driven discussion on will it fit in our community? How, where would we put it? How do we fund it? Those are serious questions because there's a lot of great people in our community that have been working on mental health from all angles, just making sure that we have it. But I don't know if there's been a connection, between the courts, the schools, and all of that. And so that's pretty much what we have going on Thursday. After I was actually on the monthly committee, she kept talking about we'd have to wait for the legislature. And I kept saying, oh no, Chaves County doesn't wait for a legislator, because I knew if we waited for them to pass something, it would be 3-4 years. And so I wanted to at least start talking about, is this something we can implement now? So I took it to the chief, had him watch it. He was extremely excited about it because it makes a lot of sense. And then evidently, he then took it to Judge Hudson, who the judge has met the gentleman who started this program. And this judge from Miami will actually be here in October. We'll be staying an additional day. And one of the things about this program is not only you get to watch it, but they have blueprints on how to set it up. And they also can help you with getting federal funding. So that's why there's a lot of opportunity here. Very excited. Any questions?
Madam Chair. Can I, and Counselor, I just wanted to say that I've been to several personal meetings with Judge Hudson about this in months past. We had to do most of them over Zoom because of their restrictions with the court, but he has put a significant amount of research into this and its potential abilities. So,
Yeah.
So the ball has already started rolling.
That's what, when the chief sent out that email and Judge Hudson said, yes, I've been following this for 3 years. I just didn't know how to get it implemented. That's when we were like, whew, because that's the one we had to actually make, if he agreed with it, that was actually very good.
We've had those discussions, but unfortunately because of the COVID situation, it was very difficult, especially with him and the judicial. They had more restrictions on where they can be in different things at different times. So hopefully this will be a step in the right direction.
Absolutely, very good. Anyone else?
There are a lot of people that if you ever go by the jail, when they release some people, you see people all the time that are out there and they might be in a conversation yelling and screaming at the other guy that's not even there. And I mean, that happens all the time from our jail. And because we don't give them a bus right there in town, they just turn them loose out there to find their way. And you see that all the time. The homeless people, you've been following Albuquerque, a lot of the homeless people are getting more and more brazen. But they'll come up and catch you in Walmart or something, pound on your car window and demand you give them money. And that kind of stuff's happening, and it happens in Albuquerque. It won't be long before it's here. And so this stuff is for a lot of the mentally ill people. Since with the demise of Counseling Associates, we had a pretty good handle on it with Counseling Associates. And but with the demise of them, really, and the other sister agencies around the state, we have a real problem with people getting off their meds. And I haven't seen anything that can get them back on it in the way that these Counseling Associates, they got them on their meds for a while. They seem to stay better, but I haven't seen anything yet that really works on getting people back on their meds. And that's a real tragic deal. And Papa Arnold's got a really good job on staying after this is putting it together. And so if anybody wants to come or look, I don't know if the moderator room would be big enough or not, but
We can squeeze in nice and tight.
it's a good program. We've got to start somewhere because, just the other day over there with driving by the old Excel Energy plant or Southwestern Public Service over there on the railroad. And there were, the guy screaming there, right there just screaming and hollering and when anybody there to scream at and he was just doing it. And, you know, it's obvious he thought there was somebody there. We have a lot of that and just need to look at it, but trying to figure out how to do it. If we can put, if we can find one area in the place where we can put a shelter maybe or something where they would have some kind of way to shower or hang their clothes at least a little better, some kind of tape house. Be nice. Nobody wants it anywhere in their neighborhood. So I have a lot of issues. There's always people like lumber. So just where you go. So it'd be good. I think we got to attack it somehow.
Thank you, Council. Anybody else have any questions on the departments? Does anyone have any pressing matters you want to cover? Okay. I would like to adjourn and if it doesn't have any. 5:15. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you Thursday. Oh.